I just finished working on a project that I thought had some interesting things happen during it, some interesting outcomes. And so basically I'm here, I wanted to share it with you. It has mainly to do with the customer discovery phase of using the lean startup process. So that's what I'm here to talk about today. I am a consultant, a freelancer, and I work on basically run innovative and digital projects. And Sonoma Media approached me to work on a project they had. And for those of you who don't know Sonoma, they are a big, huge publisher. They are one of the top publishers in the Nordic countries. They operate in 20 different countries. They have a lot of big brands like Libella, we might be one you've heard of here, Mary Claire, Playboy magazine they do. They also have TV channels like SBS. They do apps, New Print. But they're basically a traditional print company. And so, like most traditional print companies, they realize that print is dying. So they're looking for different ways that they can be innovative and get more different ways of having revenue and different ways of doing business. So they have a really cool program that's called their internal ventures. So because they're looking for different innovative ways to do things, they figured they would look inside of their company to see what kind of ideas their employees actually have, which I thought was really cool. So it's what's called Intrapreneurship, if you've heard of this. It's trying to create a startup mentality inside of these larger companies. So they started these accelerator programs. So it's basically people within the company, if they have an idea for a startup that has to do with a certain theme, like the first one they did was a mobile accelerator, so anything to do with mobile technology. You can put it up in sort of this contest, and this is across all of their offices, across all the different countries, Poland, Finland, Netherlands, Germany. And they get picked for this accelerator. So they start out with maybe 80 possible companies. They go through sort of a boot camp thing for 7 or 9 weeks where they get training, and it keeps getting kind of whittled down, kind of like a reality show as far as like who gets to go on. And it culminates with a true boot camp, which is what's happening here, where all the people get together, they make their MVPs, and then 3 groups eventually get chosen. So these people then get to leave their jobs in Sonoma. They get to actually be a founder of a startup with its own name and sometimes its own office. They get a budget. They get to run it basically however they want. And with a little bit of funding from Sonoma. And then if it doesn't work out, they get to go back to their old job. So it's a pretty sweet deal. The reason they came to me is because they had another project that they wanted to do that didn't come up through this way, but they thought that it fit in well with their process. So they brought me on board as sort of a founder for one of these startups, even though I wasn't one of these people that came up through the company. So it was an interesting opportunity. So I was in with a group of mobile apps, basically, that are these startups. One is Beauty Tale, so it's a recommending beauty products kind of app. There's UCourse and Clip School, which are both e-learning apps. And then there's another one, they're still kind of pivoting. It has to do with recommending apps for children. And so the other piece that they wanted to put in here, that other people in Sonoma wanted to explore, is a second screen. And so there's a lot of talk about second screen apps, and they mean different things. Sometimes it's an app where you can actually see the program, other times it's an app that sort of goes along with the program. And so they really wanted to see what they can do in this space, because if you look at all of the statistics and you see 80% of people are using some other device while they're watching TV, well, publishers and advertisers are kind of salivating to figure out how they can get in front of those eyeballs. So they wanted to try it out, asked me to help them out. So one thing I thought was really interesting and why I wanted to take part in this is that they are going by the lean startup method. And I know a lot of you have been to Startup Weekend, or you might otherwise be familiar with this method. And so basically, it's a scientific approach to creating and managing a startup. So it tries to take guesswork and makes you validate assumptions before you put too much money into it. So it's basically a premise that says every startup is a grand experiment in trying to answer a question. And that question is not, can this be built? because that's where a lot of people start with. That's not really the first thing you should be looking at. If it's not a time machine or a teleporter or something that can be built, you can build those things. The questions that you really need to answer are, should we build this? And if so, is there a viable business around this? And so that's what Living Startup Method aims to do. So what they brought me on for was the customer discovery phase. So I had 3 months to go through and discover, is there really, first of all, is this actually a problem that needs to be solved? People needing a second screen. If it is what we're proposing to do, does that actually solve the problem? And if so, is there actually a viable business behind this? And this is all before you even build anything. So I got 3 months basically, and I got a little budget myself. They told me to own the project, create a team, hire, do whatever I needed to do, and come with a recommendation at the end to where we can decide if Sonoma should actually then put big money into this idea or not. So that's kind of the background. And so I wanted to show you guys sort of how it went and some things that I learned during that. So one of the biggest things that you'll see in the lean startup is you have to get out of the building. So this is something that large companies like Sonoma will work in the traditional way, don't maybe tend to do as much. They do their big market research, they'll do market research for a year, but they're never necessarily getting out there and literally talking to people as the founder. That's the thing. If you're the one who has the idea, you're the one that's driving it, you're the one that needs to actually talk to people, because then you can actually see the nuances of whether you're doing what they need or not what they need, et cetera. And you can't really do that through surveys. So that was a big part of what we did. And we also did, of course, the business canvas. I'm sure you guys have seen this, and it helps you identify your value propositions, your customer relationships, and things like that. And this is really the main documentation for the project, which is another great thing about this method. You're not creating pages and pages of documentation, requirements, and reports, all these things that take time and they just change anyway. So this was our approach, where this was basically the documentation that had to be kept up. So we started out with, I had no name, I didn't know really exactly what it was going to be, no logo, just kind of an idea that it was a kind of app that would help give information about the program while you're watching it. And we would start with Dutch TV, Dutch channels, and then if it took off, then we would go to test out other countries. So the first thing I did was look at some existing models. If there are no existing models or competitors, and you already know you have a problem because maybe this idea really isn't a good idea, there's nobody doing it. So it's actually good news if you have some competitors. ZBox was kind of the main model that we used. Has anyone heard of ZBox? Okay, it's Anthony Rose, who did the BBC iPlayer. You ever heard of that? Yeah. He went off and started this in the UK and the US. And he's sort of the main one doing this kind of companion app. So it gives you information about what's going on in the program. It creates a community around the program. You can, I don't know if it has to buy anything. No, it does. Yeah, it has a shop, of course. But it's mainly in the UK and the US. Something interesting is they've had maybe 5 million downloads since they launched in 2011. So that's not very many. So that's interesting that something with so much power and sort of name behind it is getting that kind of traction. Something else we noticed about them too is that their information that comes out about the programs is very automated, so you can tell there's a bot behind it. So on the TV show, if somebody talks about a lamppost, then you'll pop up a little thing about, oh, a lamppost is a post with a lamp on it, so you can tell it's not really that interesting. So that was something that was something to keep in mind as we were trying to develop what our differentiating factors were going to be. Then there's SBS 6 Plus. Is anyone familiar with this one? This is actually a Dutch app. You know SBS 6, the channel? Okay, I didn't really. Sonoma owns this channel, and so I got to talk to the people who made this app, and it's similar to what we're talking about for our second screen app that I was developing. But they actually have cameras that are in the locations of the production stages and stuff like that, where they can provide extra footage. Really interactive, highly entertaining. But it's interesting to see that as great of a job as they do in their app, they don't have a lot of recurring usage either. So they had, on a good day, they may have, let's see, what was it? I want to make sure I don't quote this wrong. Yeah, average 5,000 active users at the time. So that's not a lot of eyeballs. But for them, they don't really have to have a business model and support themselves with this app. Basically, it's to extend their brand. It's to make themselves more valuable for their advertisers that are there anyway. So it's serving a good purpose for them, but it's not necessarily something that would stand alone. Another example is Remotely TV. This is a service that was here in Amsterdam. Same kind of thing where they deliver little tidbits about shows that are on. It's automated as well. But what's interesting about them is that they stopped with their business to consumer and they turned just into B2B engine to go into other apps. So that was interesting too. So the point of this is that by looking at what other people are doing and really kind of seeing what kind of results they're getting, you can learn a lot before you risk too much yourself. We haven't built anything yet or spent any money. Another thing we looked at is, this is Voice of Holland, you can't really see it. And it's in Dutch, I'm sorry for those who don't speak Dutch. But this is an app that's specifically for a TV show. So that's another way to do second screen. And what's really interesting here is that out of the 4.2 million viewers, and all of this is like downloading, installing, all the way down the track to actual recurring users, you're looking at 50,000 users, which also is not very much. So even something as successful and popular as this is having these challenges. So that was good to know, because we're coming out of nowhere with no name or anything. So just quickly to take you through doing the classic things you do, looking at your, yeah?
I had a question about the last slide. Is it only for SBS 6 Plus, these charts?
This one is just Voice of Holland.
Voice of Holland.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, SBS 6 Plus had other, I don't have a chart.
All right.
And so, just quickly taking you through some of the steps, we look at our own target market. And there's about 5 million viewers in the Netherlands per day in prime time. So that's where you start. That's the first huge pool of people that you might even have any hope of reaching. And then the served addressable market, we were deducing about 70% of people who use the second screen. There weren't any real stats that we could find here in the Netherlands, but if you look at UK data and US data, and you also know that the Netherlands does have, in other things, has a high use of devices, and everyone's really
Do you then mean
mobile.
just using devices while watching TV,
Yeah.
or actually using second screen apps?
Just using devices. Yeah. Don't know what they're doing on it. Yeah.
How would you know if that's someone that's using devices is also actually watching TV? I mean, sometimes Diederik is watching and I'm not watching, I'm just reading with my iPad. And
Yeah. You don't know exactly. So,
Okay.
right.
I just don't.
Yeah. Yeah, some of those people will be looking up things. There were some breakdowns of the kind of things that people do, but a lot of that's going to be speculation because we're just taking surveys.
We could just ask in this room who are using devices, because in our family everybody uses devices when we watch TV. So that's true.
Yeah, and what are you doing when you're
I'm on the internet, I'm playing games.
Are you looking at something about the show
Facebook.
or something else?
I didn't know about these applications, but now I am.
Yeah.
How they work.
Yeah,
Is
these people.
anyone actually actively watching TV? Anyone?
I'm a woman, I have several brains. I can do multitasking.
Yeah, people do different things. Like some people are looking up on IMDb about who is that actress. That's what we found a lot of people were doing. A lot of people are shopping. I'm not a huge shopper, so this surprised me, but we did find that people, they really want to buy what the actress is wearing and things like that, the table in that room. And the SBS people told me that's one of the biggest phone calls they get. How can I buy that thing? So that was something that was good to know. And other people are just doing something completely different, not paying attention. So it's just the way people are interacting with their TVs and their devices. It's just all over the place right now. But for our purpose, it's just to try to get an idea about what kind of market is even available. We just kind of took a big one here and made an assumption based on some stats we had. And so we figured, okay, if we can capture 1 to 2% of those people on our app, which is I think is still ambitious, then, okay, let's just say that's what we try to do, because you can't try to capture 0%. So we will be looking at 35 to 70K users per night, which still isn't a lot. So actually things aren't looking so great now, but it still we felt like because there are so many people there watching with their devices, it's something that we still need to go forward with. So at this point, we knew we wanted to do more research. So it was just me at this point, and I brought on a freelance designer, Lee Chow. And Lee is somebody that I had seen at other sort of agile workshops and things like this, and we had talked before, and I worked with her on another project. I knew she was interested in the startup practices and how can we do these on projects for bigger clients. So I brought her on as a designer and also as a sparring partner, so we could really talk about, okay, what features do we want to try to have, what problem we're trying to solve, what's our look and feel, what's our basic personality of this app we're trying to do. And so part of what we needed to do was get our minimum viable product. So those of you, is everyone familiar with what minimum viable product is? So it's the least you can build in order to test the assumptions you're trying to test. And the point of this is so you spend as little money as possible before you know that you actually have a viable business. So I think this is kind of funny when it says viable products built by companies that are better financed than you. It's not totally true, because even if you have a lot of money, you shouldn't necessarily put it all into your MVP. But you can even have just a lo-fi MVP, which it can even just be a landing page. It doesn't have to be a real anything. You can just put it up there and say, here's what we're going to do. Are you interested in seeing people give their email address, for example? So we came up with the name Tappy. Some people really love the name, some people don't like the name. I find some Dutch people don't like it because it's not descriptive enough. They wanted second screen app kind of thing, but that's taken already probably. You can't really copyright or brand that. But we decided some of the other apps that I was showing you, they tend to be more sort of computery, kind of impersonal. So we thought that we wanted this to be something that people could be happy, bright colors, more friendly, homey, that kind of thing. Just try a completely different angle, not techy. So we settled on Tappy. So we came up with our little tagline, you're out for fun, socializing, and information while you watch TV. And here was our main sort of differentiating factor. So it's targeted relevant content. We won't put this is a lamppost on there. Customized and personalized, because we think it's something that people can get emotionally attached to. They're more likely actually to pull it out and watch TV. So it's something that they can feel as a companion and maybe helps them feel less lonely. Maybe that's a reason why they would pull it out. And also everything in one place. So our premise was people are looking at Google, they're looking at their Twitter, they're trying to follow the Twitter stream about the show, they're looking at IMDb, they're trying to shop, and this pulls it all in one place so you can stay focused on the TV show.
That just sounds interesting. How do you define the difference between customized and personalized?
Well, I don't know, I guess it's kind of the same, isn't it? It's kind of similar.
Some use differently. I see everybody uses it in a different way. So.
Well, we just meant it can be customized to you and it's personalized to you.
And so it's customized, that's actually maybe the owner of the content.
Oh.
And personalizing it, me personalizing the application.
Yeah,
okay,
we kind of meant both the same. Actually, yeah. So you can customize it to more what you like. Actually, here's something. We were thinking in future iterations that it would be have an algorithm that could learn what you like, and so it would then start showing you things that are more about the types of things that you do. So I guess that's kind of more the personalized, but that would be further down if we decided that it was a viable product in the first place. So for our first round, low fidelity MVP, this is a slice of the web page. As you can see, we don't even know exactly what our features are, what the screen's going to look like, so we made a conceptual kind of illustration just to have something to point to when we're talking to people about this. So, we didn't have any developers or technical people on board at this point. We just used Unbounce as a tool, which I think is a really good landing page tool. It's really simple to set things up. and it has analytics. And then we just attached MailChimp to the subscription. So it gave people a way to, if they're interested, give their email address, and then we could start building up a base of beta testers and early evangelists that we could ask questions and have them convert our earlier audience. So now that we have this, we can start in with the experiment part of our process. And that was one thing that we focused a lot on is running experiments. And I'm going to walk you through all the different experiments that we did, and I actually had to leave some of them out because it would just start to get too boring. But we really wanted to validate before we built if this is something that we wanted to do. And so I'll kind of go through the process here. One great thing about this project is that we had a lean startup coach named Hayes Van Noonan, who worked with me and the other ladies who were founding the companies within Sonoma. And he's really big on designing experiments and being very clear about it. And so we got consultation from him, and I learned a lot from him. And basically the steps are, you identify your riskiest assumptions about your product. And this is helpful to really make you think about it. And it can be just as simple as that people are even interested in this. That's an assumption. And that's one of the first ones you probably want to validate before you go forward. Then you brainstorm tests that you can use to validate or invalidate that assumption. There's many different ways to go about it, but you can brainstorm and get a clear test in mind. Then you define your hypothesis. I think that the result of the test is going to be this. And then you set your goal for your minimum success. So, if 50% of so-and-so happens, then I'm going to consider this a success. And this is important because it's really easy to do the test and not really be sure what you consider a success or not, and then you can sort of decide if it's successful or not after the fact. Like, well, that's pretty good. Yeah, I think that's successful. But it's better to put a stake in the ground ahead of time. And then you run the test and you review and you decide if you have enough validation to go to the next phase. So a very kind of scientific structured approach. So I'll talk to you about some of the things that the tests that we did. So our basic assumption is that people are interested in a general science right now. So let's test that. So for the first test, very simple. Ask 20 Dutch people because it's Dutch TV and it's all in Dutch. Show them the low fidelity MVB, the thing I just showed you, and just get general feedback. Are people just like, ugh, go away, or are they like, oh yeah, I'd like to hear more? So my hypothesis is that people will be interested and they'll give me their email address. And so the success criteria, I didn't have very high standards here. 5 people would give you their email address. And I did actually, as at Meet and Blinken, I talked to some people, and these are people I know generally, or people who are around kind of technology, so it's skewed in that way. But I still had enough people tell me that they thought it was interesting enough that I thought, okay, well, I'll go on. So these are the kind of things that you probably do anyway, but by kind of structurizing it, making it structured, you can sort of really keep track of what your progress is. So we have the same assumption. Test 2 is ask 2 Dutch friends to do a tweet for their network about the app idea, about a 400-person reach, and then see if they'll be interested enough to become beta testers, meaning they would be sent to the site and, again, give me your email address. And one thing about getting email addresses is that it actually says a lot if somebody gives you their email address, because that means they trust you and they're really interested. I mean, some say it's actually more of a validation than somebody paying you for something. So it's keep that in mind. If they give you their email, it means something. So I was thinking, okay, if 20 people submit their email address, then that's great. And so 20 people at least put their email address. So like, okay, great. People are really, this is something. So let's keep moving, getting really excited and feeling like we're on a good track. So at that point, I felt comfortable bringing on more of a team. So this is when I brought on 4 excellent, awesome interns. They came on to work for a month and a half on this project and created a team right away to help with all the different things that we had to do, and especially some of this testing. So keep in mind now that we haven't built anything yet. We're still, there's no product, there's no real money that's been spent. So to still test our assumption again, now I'm going to talk to 65, I say, quote, regular people about the idea. And we thought, hey, why not also show them ZBox, the thing I told you about before, because it already exists. So show them that. They already spent the money to build it. It really gives a good idea of what we're trying to do. That combined with our MVP with a different kind of look and feel should give a good idea. So instead of talking to my friends and friends of friends and app people, I decided to go to Harlem around Hotelstraat, where there's lots of shops within a walking distance. And in the middle of the day, when there's no customers, shop people are pretty happy to talk to you. They don't have a lot going on. And there are people that come from all different walks of life and all different kind of background. Young people, old people, you know, maybe more wealthy people who own the shop, ladies of leisure, teenagers, whatever. So it's a great kind of testing ground.
Tara, can you remind me again what your differentiator was going to be beyond ZBox and the other one?
It was going to be more targeted, relevant content, and it was going to be personalized and customized.
Okay, so
And like
better
a
quality
friendly-
content basically,
Yeah,
because you thought these were quite generic.
and more kind of, and then I know you're not supposed to differentiate on interface. They can't really list that as a differentiator, but we still thought our interface was going to be less cluttered and nicer. So that was one of them too. As you can see, like I'm exhaustively going through these tests. I hope I'll try to go fast, but I just want to show you the amount that you can go through to really get to validate something. So I thought they would be interested enough to become beta testers. Went and talked to all these people over a couple of days. I made a pretty high criteria now. I didn't want to keep making it so easy on myself that 50% of the people I talked to would submit their email address. And yeah, more than 50% of the people did. In fact, I got a lot of good insight from people telling me what kind of shows they would like to have. And some people were more interested in the shopping. Some people were more interested in the extra information. People were like, oh yeah, I'd really like to use this. And one thing though, when you're doing these tests is you have to realize that talk is cheap. People might have every intention of thinking it's a good idea, but that doesn't mean that they turn into actual users, which is what the only thing that's important, really. But it's still good pre-validation for you to know what to do. So we decided to go to the next level of our minimum viable product. That was, we're getting this positive feedback, and so we're feeling good. So we're like, yeah, this is something, let's go on. And so we decided to really pick the features and start actually doing screen mock-ups. We're not building anything real yet. And one of our things, actually, Frank, was that we didn't want to be cluttered. And by the time we put everything on there, we figured it was too cluttered. So we had to kind of go back to the drawing board. And this is another picture of our landing site. And you can sort of see that we have a cleaner look. We decided on a 4-square kind of system, a different way of presenting the content, more graphical. And so Lee and I put that together as the basic wireframe. I guess it's still not really designed yet there. We thought we had, one of the questions was, have you identified a problem that people have? I mean, whether having a bunch of apps and stuff is really a problem, I don't know, but we felt like we did identify something that people were interested in. So let's go to a higher level of an MVP, which is an actual working prototype. So for that, I got to work with this team in Budapest. Sanoma has a whole mobile development center in Budapest that develops all of their apps. And so they were available to me to do this work. I had a budget and I still had to pay even Sanoma people, but they've got really great rates. And so I got a little bit of a discount too. So I got to go to Budapest to work with these guys for a couple of weeks to really bang out an actual prototype that we can actually use with our beta testers. And really what it was, it's a content management system on the back end to where we have our interns sitting there watching the TV, entering something, photo, URL, post, and it goes into the app. So it's very much simulated, but it did the job. So I was there working with them on that, while and their designers took these kind of look and feel and created the actual sort of real, design pieces of the screens. And so this is just showing you can expand each area. That's the one that you're most interested in. That was our little customized thing, and that's not actually simulating it. And so we had 4 sections in the simulating daily day there. And so now we went into all the stuff that you do. Like you make your little videos, so you can really make something look real. Doing the social media, let's get a Facebook page up, let's get Twitter, let's really start to build a community around our beta testers and make it real. And so I thought I would just show you the video we made as a way to show, my intern did this using just Keynote, and he had never used Keynote before. We didn't have any animation programs or anything expensive. It's in Dutch, so it's only a minute though, but I think the visuals can show you what's going on, although I forgot to hit the speakers up, so let's see.
Terwijl we televisie kijken, zitten we graag met onze tablet op de bank. We zoeken naar extra informatie of praten tijdens de uitzending gezellig mee op Twitter. Helaas zijn die verschillende apps en websites wel onhandig, omdat je steeds moet wisselen. Zou het niet ideaal zijn als er één app bestaat die samen met jouw tv kijkt? Eén die alle relevante informatie voor jou verzamelt binnen één overzichtelijk scherm? Maak dan nu kennis met Tappy, jouw eigen second screen app, waardoor je niets meer mist van je favoriete tv-programma's. Tappy bestaat uit 4 categorieën die het tv-kijken nog leuker maken. Extra informatie, Twitter, een webshop en programma-informatie. Allereerst geeft Tappy je live extra informatie over onderwerpen die besproken worden in het programma. Ook kun je meer lezen over de gasten of de acteurs die te zien zijn in de uitzending. Wil je liever meepraten over het programma op Twitter? Ook dat kan eenvoudig via Tappy. Je kunt met je vrienden praten en in één oogopslag zien wat de meest besproken onderwerpen zijn. Daarnaast biedt Tappy iets wat helemaal nieuw is: een slimme webshop. Zie jij een leuk jasje voorbij komen op tv? Tappy vindt het meteen voor jou, zodat je het eenvoudig kunt kopen. Als laatste geeft Tappy programma-informatie, zoals een samenvatting van de uitzending. Op die manier kun je ook halverwege een programma nog gemakkelijk inschakelen. Wil je meer informatie? Kijk dan op www.tappy.tv.
Okay, so it's obviously not fancy or anything, but this is something that we could point people to and start to really get more beta testers and things like that. And actually the voiceover, one of the interns had a friend that's trying to get into voiceover work, so we did it for free, like it was just a really quick thing. And again, that's part of the whole lean startup method, like just do it fast. That's not great, so what? You saw that the Ava assignments cost 1,900 euros, whoops, oh well, you know, put it out there, it doesn't matter, just keep going. And again, we went ahead and did a Facebook page so we could get more fans, and we were really trying to build a community. We would put information about, we figured these are early users, so they're interested in sort of industry things, so we put second screen news and things like that, plus information about TV programs. And all in the meantime, we were researching Twitter activity on different Dutch programs, so we could choose which ones to do for our test. The ones that had the most Twitter activity, we figure are people who are literally sitting there with the device and doing something on it, so those are good targets. Also had our Twitter, putting stuff out. We also had a newsletter. Luckily I had these great interns, and at least 2 of them were good writers, and I had to just trust that it was all there because I don't speak Dutch yet. But I do a little now, and so letting people know kind of what's going on, letting them in on the testing, that's the thing too. We were very transparent. We weren't trying to pretend like we were anything we weren't. We were just like, that we're having our first test coming up, you know, we hope you all can help, we hope you'll download, that kind of thing. So back to more testing then. So we have our materials. We're still hoping that people will be interested in watching this, using this app while they watch TV. Did a performance-based ad campaign on Sun on the websites and new.nl on their actual iPad app. So I think people will be interested enough to subscribe. I figured if I got a 10% conversion, that's good. So this is an example of one of the banner ads that went up. Not very expensive to do this at all. It's a really great way to gauge interest, because if complete strangers give you their email, they don't even have you in there smiling trying to convince them, then that says a lot. So here are the results. There's about 4,000 clicks and about 200 conversions. And so I was like, oh wow, that's not bad actually. You know, we made our target, great. You know, this is excellent. And so, but this is where it's really good to get an outside point of view, because the more attached you get to your product, the more you're going to start skewing things toward the positive. And that's good for a lot of things, but when you're really trying to see if it's a product that needs to be made, You need to have somebody else help you look at the results. In which case, our startup coach did, and he helped me to see that, yeah, we got 4,000 clicks, but impressions, which means views of the actual ad, we had 1.4 million, and that's a lot. And so if you look at the clicks, then you've got a click-through rate which is of 0.003, which is terrible. Like, it's like basically nobody. That means 0 people, really. So even though, but I was excited because we had 200 new people sign up to be beta testers, and I'm always looking at MailChimp and looking at everything to see who's signing up, and you know, you get all excited. But even to get each of those customers cost 10 euros each, with the way that things cost. So actually, no one was in that. And this is where I'm coming with the kind of beware of the positive feedback, because it's easy to get charmed by it, I suppose. Still testing, and we're doing a lot of these concurrently too. That's another thing, is you can run tests at the same time, which actually it's a good idea to do. We had another idea, kind of a weird one. What if I sent personal emails to all of our subscribers as the Tappy founder, and you know, I would love to talk to you, chat with you about your thoughts on how you use this app, how interested are you in it, like, you know, why did you sign up in the first place, like really finding out from customers why are you interested, and how can you do things with it. The hypothesis is that people would have a big enough pain and be willing to talk to me about it. I thought I'd maybe get a 30% response rate. I didn't. I got maybe 5 people out of 150 people that we emailed. Again, I was excited that 5 people wanted to talk to me, but it's not actually a good enough result. Another thing that we needed to look at is that we can actually deliver the kind of content that people want to see, because that's another, like we said, quality content was one of our differentiators, and it's not necessarily easy to do that. So we created a Tappy Twitter account for the Dino Show. Does anyone know the Dino Show? It's a really popular Dutch variety comedy show that's filmed in Rotterdam. None of you know the Dino Show?
No.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. I do know, but it has a high amount of Twitter activity, so we thought that would be a good one. So we're using Twitter as the app, basically. So we're thinking we'd be able to provide interesting tidbits through this, and that, you know, we thought if we get 10 new followers, it'd be great. So we created our little Dino Show Tappy account, sat there, all the interns in the evening, ready to go. Calling it basically a flawed test, because Twitter froze us out because they thought we were spamming people, and they wouldn't let us get new followers. And, but still, I can just tell that it wasn't like a huge, overwhelming response. Although the lady there, she tweeted at us because we were tweeting at her. We thought that was exciting. She's famous of some sort. So, but so yeah. Now it's here where we're starting to see. But here's the big one about the content, and about, this is also about engagement. There's more tests, but I'm not going to go through all of them. Here's where we really went through our big thing. This is what we were getting all of our beta testers ready for, this 4-day test. They actually download the app from the App Store. We did a native app. And we would be sitting there for 4 different programs to actually deliver the content the way that the app would. So we can look at their behavior, see if people go in it more than once, see how engaged they actually are. Can we actually have people want to put this app in front of them? So people will react positively, 50% will download the app and will come after users. So we chose these programs. I guess you all aren't big Dutch TV watchers, so I won't bother really telling you, but it's a variety of programs, different types of programs. So the interns, actually the first night all came to my house. We got takeout. This is translated with Google Chrome, but it was in Dutch. You know, getting our Twitter followers ready to go, taking a picture of my TV at home, just really trying to get people involved. And so basically at the end, one thing we did too is we offered free iPad covers for people that would give the best feedback. So that was also an incentive. So out of the 260 download invitations we sent for our app, we got 125 downloads and about 73 unique users. And again, wow, that looks pretty good. It's 50%. But I think it's just not, our analytics weren't detailed enough to really see what's going on. We called it inconclusive because, you know, it's strong response that we got, sort of, but it's not that strong. And the other thing that I was doing in the meantime is I was looking at the business models behind this. So I don't want to bore you with the spreadsheets, but looking at how much revenue you can really expect per user, and looking at other kind of usage rates that they had at Sonoma for some of their really popular apps. And the best case scenario I could come up with was that we would be getting maybe 97,000 euros a year. And that's not the kind of thing that Sonoma is looking at investing in. Even if I doubled that as a best case scenario, then we're looking at like 160,000 euros per year. And it costs more than that to actually provide the content. So, yeah.
But isn't there any value in being one of the first parties to be developing any such thing or to be experimenting with it? Doesn't that represent some kind of value which would make it viable to explore a bit more with the app?
Well, it depends on what your goals are. It can be. It just depends on, part of the purpose of all this is deciding if it's something that you or, a company like Sonoma want to spend your time and money on, if it's worth it. Because if it's a big brand that wants to spend money on something just to sort of be the first to expand their brand more, there can be some value in that.
Mm-hmm.
But Sonoma, their goals were to have something that's going to be a big revenue generator. So they wanted something that was going to be 10 million over the next 3 years, I think.
Do you have any hypothesis as to why it's not adopted very quickly?
I think it's just that people aren't used to using their apps that way, and it has to be really compelling because there's so many other competing things. It has to be really, really good for people to always want to pull it out and watch it when you're watching TV. And maybe it's not a real problem yet. Like maybe we would like it, Sonoma would like it to be a problem, and advertisers would really love it to be a problem, that all these people would be looking at their second screen. But that doesn't mean from a user perspective that they actually care. So, yeah. So to kind of wrap up, so the good news is that people are interested. And, but again, not overwhelmingly. And some people could have maybe taken this as enough to go on. And even in the past in Sonoma, it would have been enough for people to say, let's go ahead and put millions of euros into this. But they're trying to change the way they do things and not do that. They want to put money in things that are going to be meet their goals, which is to be big revenue generators quickly. The bad news is providing the quality content, which is one of the big differentiators, is labor intensive. It doesn't scale well. You need a staff of people. You need somebody to oversee those people. Yeah, you can have students, but every market that you expand into, you need to actually have people behind it until the technology gets more intuitive, and I think it'll take a while for that. And the other bad news, as I was saying before, was the business model. So in addition to all the things I said, it's also multiple levels of conversion, which is very difficult. It's hard enough to get somebody to convert by downloading an app, but to get someone to download an app, open an app, open it multiple times, buy something from one of the sponsors, that's a lot to ask for conversion for people. So basically the kind of 4 questions in the beginning. So have we identified a problem a customer wants to see solved? Maybe. Does our product solve this customer problem or need? Yeah, that's a real problem. It solves it pretty well. That's the thing. People really liked it and talked to who used the app. But if so, do we have a viable and profitable business model? No, we don't. There's just no getting around it. And have we learned enough to go out and sell it? Well, yeah, we learned enough that we probably can't go do that. So this is what I wanted to show you, because again, if we had just sort of been excited about how much people liked it when they talked to us, we may have made different decisions. And we are looking at a pivot though now that has to do more with Twitter that I'm going to be working with Sonoma on next month. We'll see how that goes. But I guess the takeaways here are, you have to kind of examine your own behavior and expectation, because you're passionate about it. But which is essential. You need to be passionate about a startup if you're doing a startup. But you have to also take a scientific approach and double check your results with someone too. It's important. Make sure you have someone who is objective, kind of look at your results and help you really interpret that. But as the founder of a startup, ultimately you have to decide what your goals are. If it's something that you're so passionate about, you don't think you have to make money on it right now, you can keep going with it, that's one thing, you know, and so that even with these kind of results, it might be something that you would want to go ahead with. But if you have different goals like Astronomer, then you make your choices around that. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time.